Señores, Camilo Seto para ustedes. Quisiera dejar la canción entera, pero de verdad que hay mucha vaina que hablar hoy, así que vamos a comenzar de una vez. A lot of shit to talk about this week. A very, very busy week in fantasy. Let's start off with some awards. So for week 3, the awards for the highest scoring team is obvious. That was FIBA. Scored over 170 points. I think Packy said it last week. It's hard to lose when you score over 170 points. The highest scoring player is Devontae Freeman, 39.8 points. Just narrowly beating out AJ Green, who had 39.7 points. The biggest blowout went to Hingles McCringleberries. They beat the lowest score, which was Deflate This, by 101.5 points. That, my friends, is a blowout. Then we have the lowest scores, Deflate This, and a new thing that I'm starting, a new category. Just casually, I happened to be part of it, was Game of the Week, Matchup of the Week, whatever you want to call it. We're going to give that one to Rogues, the Gotham City Rogues versus Omega El Forte. That was a nail-biter. It went down to the wire, but ultimately, Rogues got the better of Forte. So, just another reason to play that Camilo Sesto. Alright, enough of that. Let's get to some reviews. So the reviews actually lend themselves to much narrative. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. So there's a lot more to say about the reviews, but I'll try to be brief. I'm going to start with the matchup of Fuck You Ben Affleck. I'll call them FIBA for short. And this week they played against the team formerly known as the Titans. So FIBA has a core 3 of players: Andrew Luck, Julio Jones, and Julian Edelman. These guys perform just about every week. It's going to be hard to lose if you have these guys on your team. But that core 3, or treacherous 3, may become a core 4 with the addition of Devontae Freeman. It looks like Devontae Freeman has earned the role in Atlanta. If he plays anywhere near the way he played against a so-called good defense in Dallas, then Devontae Freeman is going to make it a core 4 for Gary, which is going to be hard to beat. Going with mostly cornerbacks in his defense is a risk, but so far Aqib Talib has paid off. He has scored double digits in all 3 weeks, and he already has 2 interceptions for this year. So going cornerbacks has paid off. I don't recommend it, but to each his own. You know, how long is that going to last? I don't know, buddy, but ride the wave. It wasn't even a match this week against Illich, who not only lost this matchup, but he ended up losing his team. His team has now been replaced by the Vultures, nay, the Up Illich's carcass. I gotta practice saying that. Up Illich's carcass. So, Victor, welcome to the team. Even though you didn't manage this week, it was still Illich. Illich managed to score 100 points for a team he wasn't managing. A controversial call made by Packy to remove him from the team, but I guess we gave him enough chances to speak up. In any case, 100 points would have been enough to beat 4 other teams this week. It just so happens you faced the team with the highest score. So the good news is you do have a promising team, some suspensions, some injuries. It'll get better. And also, you don't have to face Gary's team again. You only face every team in this league once. All right, next matchup. It was Hide Your Trash against El Chapo. Hide Your Trash was right in the wave. They were at 2-1. They were feeling pretty good about themselves. and they were going to play against the 0-2 El Chapo, and they said, "Well, what the hell? This is going to be an easy way to get to 3-0." But little did he count on that it would be the week in which El Chapo bust out. You see what I did there? He bust out because he's El Chapo. So Hyde made a strong push at the end with Rodgers and a surprising performance from Larry Fitzgerald, who we long thought was a fantasy zombie. But, in a pretty high scoring game, at least from the Arizona side, he was the beneficiary. Um, Too bad, however, that his running backs just absolutely flopped. You might have missed your best shot with Ruben Randall. That was probably his best game of the season, I would say. And you wasted it on a matchup that you couldn't win. So sucks for Randall. I don't know what you're going to do with him going forward. At the beginning of the week, El Chapo was looking pretty bleak. He had a poor performance on Thursday Night Football from Alfred Morris, who's apparently sharing time now. I wouldn't count on him to be a starting running back going forward, but play how you want to play. But you did get 5 total touchdowns between Adrian Peterson and, welcome back, LeGarrette Blount. Not to forget that what finally put you over the top was the James Jones performance on Monday night. James Jones is probably going to go down as the pickup of the season. All right, so you had a total of 7 touchdowns from skill players, not counting quarterbacks. That's going to be good enough to win just about in any league. So it's a good one for El Chapo. Another note, the Giants' offense is so stagnant that they get a ton of kicker points. So, take advantage of what you can, win how you can. A win is a win is a win. El Chapo is now on the board with his first win this season. McCringleberries is looking like the powerhouse, early favorite, the team to beat. It seems that losing your masturbation hand, little chicken wing man, has made you better at fantasy. So I'm glad you're using your time more productively. Let's see. This team had double digits from every player on their starting roster except Big Ben because he was lost to injury. But otherwise, who would have known? Great performances this week by co-mummies, fantasy mummies. It was Steve Smith Sr., still drinking that fountain juice water. He ended up with 37.1 points. And Frank Gore finally made it into the end zone twice. Reminds me of that Chris Rock song. He's going to die twice. Made it to the end zone 2 times. So that was good for 21 points, 6 touchdowns for Hingles McCringleberries. Deflate this just simply looked deflated. There was nothing there for him. After the stunning upset, you just eked by my team in week number 1. After that, you had nothing. You've constantly lost. First, it was 40 points from the original score. Then you lost another 20 points from that. After scoring 120 points, your team hasn't even been able to get there 80. So, man, what a tough loss. You lost by 101 points. Whew, man. Let's see here. You lost by 101 points to a team that didn't even feature Gronk. I mean, he had double digits, but he wasn't even like the focal point this week. It was just amazing performances everywhere else. And if you were looking to, offer Omar something now that he lost Big Ben, I'm sorry to say he has Tyrod Taylor on deck, so I don't think he's going to miss Ben all that much, at least as for fantasy purposes. So, man, that is looking like the team to beat. I wouldn't like to be the team playing him this week. Although maybe since Gronk is on bye, it might be a chance to squeak out a win. All right, Knuckle Pigs versus the Brown Brady Bunch. The Knuckle Pigs just might be the most enigmatic team in this league, led by a traumatized manager. When I say traumatized, it's like he got hit in the head really hard and doesn't remember anything beyond like 2012, where this team that he currently has would have rocked. Some of the names here: Peyton Manning, Doug Martin. Some of these guys would have been fantastic. 2012. Unfortunately, you're 3 years too late, and your team is just, eh. It's amazing, honestly, that you've won as many games as you won so far, but that's how fantasy works. You just catch some breaks sometimes. Let's see here. Ron Brady had a good week despite himself. His go-to guys, Brady's and Brown, they shined as usual. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Brady Brown performed as expected. Ingram was fairly competent working with Luke McCown. McCown didn't throw any touchdowns, so there was a lot of running offense there. It's not that he ran for like 100 yards or anything like that, but he did get to double digits on the basis of running and a touchdown, 50-something yards. So that much for Ingram. Carlos Williams emerged in the absence of Shady McCoy. Ride that wave. That with the money they paid Shady, eventually they're going to get him back. They're going to use him. But for the meantime, Carlos Williams looks like a viable option. Let's see here. You only had 13 total points from the last three offensive players on your starting roster. That's really not going to cut it going forward. And you really can't count on the kind of performances you had last week, especially considering that Brown is one of your highest performers and he will no longer have Big Ben, who is the person delivering him the ball. Let's see here. You left 56 points on the bench. Who could have imagined that Charles Clay was going to have such a great week? But if you continue to make choices like that, where you outmanage yourself and leave that many points on the bench, it's going to be hard to win. So as much as I hate to agree with Packy, he kind of has a point where you got to the record you got on the basis of your schedule. As it gets tougher, it's going to be hard to beat the better teams. Let's see here. We're going to leave it at that for that matchup. So moving on, see what we got here. I Pity the Foes played this week. I Pity the Foes was peaks and valleys. I want you guys to look at his box score for week 3. You have someone in the 5 points, and then you got a 20, and then you got a 6 points, and then you got another double digits, and it's just up and down and up and down and up and down in every one of those positions. I Pity the Foes apparently lost faith in Matthew Stafford this week. The Stafford infection. Now they're just trotting out a whole bunch of inconsistent players, people that could do well enough to win one week, but you never really know. Le'Veon Bell looked good in his return, and no Big Ben could mean that he's going to get a lot more run. So, maybe you can take advantage of that. But I don't really know what else to say about your players. They're not guys that I would count on every week to give me double-digit points, much less the kind of scores that you saw today. I mean, from 5 to 17, from 6 to 29. Speaking of 29, there was Greg Olsen. He'll have good games. He's a good player. He's the only returning receiver of sorts that Cam Newton has, the trustworthy outlet. But I think that 29 points is a reflection of the Saints' defense or lack thereof. Rob Ryan is a terrible coordinator, by the way. Pity the Foes scored 48 points when you add up his kicker and defensive player points. That doesn't happen every week. It helped you win this week, but then again, you were going to be, you were facing turned down for Watt. Watt, man. Turned down for Watt has no answer. I don't see anything that they could do going forward. They may be looking forward to this week facing Brito, who's the only person that's consistently scored less than turned down for Watt. But other than that, I'm looking at this team, and it looks so promising after draft day. The Dez, C.J. Anderson dropped to 13th. But, injuries and underperforming. This team is a mess. I'm not suggesting that you go on fire sale mode just yet, but don't do what I did last year where I held on to my only asset for way too long. I mean, by the time I traded Jordy Nelson, it was hard to make any kind of push to even be part of the playoffs. So, think about what you got. Try to get the most you can for these assets. Move a Russell Wilson, move a CJ Anderson, do the whole sell low, try to sell the promise that he's going to be better. Because he is. I mean, he can't be any worse than he is right now, and he is playing for the Peyton Manning offense that's going to move the ball. If you focus on all those receivers, somebody's going to have to run the ball. And honestly, I don't think Denver trusts Ronnie Hillman. He looks like a stick figure running out against all these men. So, yeah, I mean, C.J. Anderson will eventually get his job back. He just kind of needs to get his mojo. So stick with him if you think he's going to win you some games, some weeks, or find the way to move him now and get some matches that'll help you win games pronto. Your record, Adeli, your schedule, it's going to get a little quote unquote easier going, the next couple of weeks. You got a chance to steal some games, but you got to make some moves, man. All right, let's see here. So the last note I wanted to make about that matchup is that to not for what, it has no points on his current roster. It has no points on his bench roster. Right now, your team is looking like they have no hope. All right, AJ, Green Eggs, and Ham finally got their first win. They finally got the production they expected of the players that they drafted. Fill-in Andy Dalton stepped in for Sam Bradford. He was looking like the Red Rifle. Packy used a technique called stacking, where he picks a lot of players on a team that have a favorable matchup, in this case Cincinnati, and he took full advantage of that. Andy Dalton had a great game. AJ Green had a great game. If you add the points from Andy Dalton and AJ Green, they added up actually 69 points. He also has Tyler Eifert. I didn't even bother to add him there, but 69 points. Motherfucker had a total of 82 points total. So, just about any defensive player would have put you over the top. Just those two players, maybe a good defensive effort anywhere else would have beat motherfucker this week. So, man, what can I even say about this game? It was like a foregone conclusion that Packy's AJ, what is it called? AJ Green Eggs, and now it's called Fuck Sam, was going to win this week. So I'm not really stressing the fact that you beat Loud Motherfucker. Okay, so you finally popped your cherry. Going forward, I like your receivers. Calvin has a tough matchup, but you got to do something about that mediocrity at running back. I know you've been, actively offering trades, trying to get something to move, but against bigger players, you're not gonna cut it, man. Not with those running backs. All right. Another thing, I did mention that 69 points from Green and Andy Dalton got you halfway there, or 70% there. Honey Badger puts you totally over. 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6. Fucking Colin Kaepernick. But that's all you would have really needed to win this week. Everything else was just icing on the cake. All right, so almost 20 minutes in. The game of the week, I already mentioned it. It was the Gotham City Rogues against Omega El Forte. It started for me at 12:40 on Sunday afternoon when I decided to switch Phillip Rivers and Brandon Cooks for Colin Kaepernick and Jeremy Maclin. Now, I'll tell you, I was happy as hell during the 1 o'clock games when Moon Randall was running in for those 3 touchdowns. And I was looking good, man. Even though the 4 o'clock games came around, I was already losing. I had the prospect of coming back and winning. But damn, Kaepernick just laid an absolute fucking egg. This guy, oh god, it gave me indigestion just fucking thinking about it. This guy just fucking sucked. He can't have more bad games like that. Let's see what happens this week going forward. Anyway, I spent the whole game, man. It was like a pendulum. First I'm on top, then Dago might get the lead, then he takes the lead for a day. I pretty much thought that I was out of it coming into Monday Night Football. And then the improbable, the unthinkable. Randall Cobb comes through with 3 touchdowns. And KC finally remembered that Jeremy Maclin plays for that team. Wow. I thought that I was done. Kaepernick just sank it. Thankfully, Kaepernick ran in that touchdown so I wouldn't get negative points. And Dago did me a huge favor by starting Cam Newton, or by not starting Cam Newton. He started Carson Palmer instead. So thanks for that. I would have had this game. I could have probably won if it wasn't for some bum, some lame duck, no name linebacker from Buffalo, motherfucker, who just scored 23 fucking fantasy points on me. This son of a bitch. Who is this guy? And even worse, Miami. What the fuck is happening with Ryan Tannehill? Shit, I mean, he was no better than Kaepernick this week. He might have scored more points, but shit. Tannehill sacked me. He's fucking throwing interceptions. He's throwing ball away. Anyway, it was close, man. It came down to the wire. Monday Night Football. I was in it until the last quarter. I thought I had a chance. Maclin gets a 61-yard catch, puts me within 2 points. At the end zone, he tried to go Maclin again. He Alex Smith just missed Macklin's fingertips. Or maybe Maclin just missed the catch, however you want to call it. And then they decide, fuck it. Let's do what we always do. Let's just run it in. Jamal Charles, 6 points, and then 2-point conversion. Travis Kelce in garbage time. Sank it. Nail in the coffin. That was the dagger. Game over. Congratulations, Dago. All right. So those were my reviews. The reviews are fun. They give us a chance to tell a story. Previews are going to be a little shorter just because nothing is written in stone, man. I mean, I can only speculate. But it was interesting when you look back at it the way that I do for the reviews. I get to tell a story that everyone who wasn't watching every single game was able to tell. Also, if you don't agree with me picking a game that I was in as the game of the week, fuck you very much. But I'll have you know that everyone who was part of the chat was following up on it, following every pass that was made by Mr. Alex Smith in hopes that it would be to Mr. Jeremy Maclin. All right, so without further ado, let's get to some previews. So I go from Camilo Sesto Melina to Omega Melina. Before I do these previews, I need some fuel. I'll be right back. All right. Hope you guys enjoy that. All right. So while Paki wants to gross, quiera que rociame Paki with all his little Raider hats, I constantly like to remind them that I live in America. Not only America, the team, the state that belongs to the team that I root for, the New York Giants, where I can find things such as this Giants shirt you see here, my personalized Giants jersey. It's personalized, you can see there. Got my Giants hat. And for those people that believe that I have 3 stomachs, I have my New York Giants donut from Dunkin' Donuts. Another one of my sponsors. All right. So get some fuel in me while I read over these matchups, these previews. All right, so I'm going to start with 3-0, team ranked number 1, the Gotham City Rogues, going against Hide Your Trash. I'll have you know, by the way, that Hide Your Trash, there's some jabbing going on there with Donnie. Maybe we should consider putting them in rivalry week. was pretty good. They went at each other. Donnie talking about, oh, I throw away my trash, you pick it up, and it was hide your trash talking about, oh my god, well fuck you very much. I'm not paying for your motels anymore. Fried chicken sucks. But back to this matchup. All right, so we have the Gotham City Rogues at 3-0 going against the 2-1 Hide Your Trash. This really isn't a close matchup. I don't think it looks closer on paper because of the records. The current first place Rogues against the fifth place Hide Your Trash. We have Cam Newton going against Tampa Bay, which is a plus for the Rogues. Jamal Charles going against Cincinnati. That's a tough one. T.Y. Hilton going against Jacksonville. If ever there was a chance for T.Y. Hilton to get it going again, it's going to be against Jacksonville. DeAndre Hopkins. I got a new respect for this dude, man. He kicked my ass also. I didn't expect him to be that good, but, I guess if you're the only option on that team, then that's what it is. Amari Cooper against Chicago. Chicago is looking like a hot mess. Like 3 games into it, I think they already gave up. So, it might be another game where Amari Cooper gets to blow up. A-Rod going against San Francisco. San Francisco has not looked good, and Aaron Rodgers has looked amazing. Man. I think I'm ready to put Aaron Rodgers at number 2. I still think that Brady has a slight edge over him. He's just a more guile. Call it cheating, call it what you want, but the offense in the Patriots, man, it just looks incredible. Hyde is going against Green Bay. Green Bay has a pretty respectable defense. Carlos Hyde has not looked as great as we thought he did after week 1, but I think that Green Bay is playing above their means. So hopefully Hyde gets it going. Odell Beckham Jr. Wow, what a tough week to own him. He's a star. You're expecting production, but he's going against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense and the Rex Ryan is tough. Man, Jason Witten against the New Orleans Saints. I really want to root for Jason Witten. The fact that he's going to play even though he has sprained ankles and a sprained knee and just a sprain just about everything. Against weak New Orleans, but I don't know. Brandon Wheaton throws short. I don't even know if that's a plus or a minus on him, but the Saints weekends is so off. The Saints defense is so off that there's a chance that Witten gets something done. Larry Fitzgerald, he looked good against San Francisco. St. Louis is tough. They're a tough pass rush. They're a tough defense. You never really know with them on offense. I think at the end of the year, they're just going to be what they always are, 8-8. But at least for this matchup, I think it's going to be tough on Carson Palmer. He's going to be running for his life, trying to get rid of that ball. Maybe he throws to Fitzgerald if he's not trying to throw deep bombs. Who knows? I don't like the matchup for Fitzgerald, though. In the waivers, the Rogues picked up Rawls, who's looking like the backup to Marshawn Lynch if Marshawn Lynch misses any time. And I'm picking the Gotham City Rogues this week, despite the fact that they have Eric Decker, who's injured and not playing. Neither one of these teams are affected by the bye week. All right, team number 2, Hingle McCringleberry is also at 3-0, but scored less points than the Rogues versus 11, the Loud Motherfuckers. Okay, so Kringleberries has Latavius Murray. Wait, what's this? Yeah, Latavius Murray is going to be going up against the Chicago Bears. Again, a hot mess, getting rid of their defense. If they don't have defense, if they don't have Cutler, if they don't have offense, I don't understand how they're going to win. Look for Murray to blow up. Frank Gore, he was looking respectable last week. This week they go against Jacksonville. That's an easy matchup, even though the defense is better than the offense. But, one touchdown, 80 yards is not out of the question. Steve Miss Sr. playing for Baltimore. He has a Thursday night matchup, I believe. What do we have here? Against Pittsburgh. We have Steve Smith Sr. against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh defense, they're in, they're out. I think their offense is better than their defense. Moving on. Does he have a game like last week? Probably not, but still respectable. Kyle Rudolph against Denver. I wouldn't bet on Rudolph on that one. That looks like a detriment. Don't like his matchup. Bye weeks. Gronk and Dion Lewis. You're going to miss Gronk. I don't know too much about Lewis. I don't think you were starting him anymore. What can I say about motherfuckers? I think they're going to be ranked number 14 after this week. Everyone on their roster is currently questionable. When we're going to know if they're going to play, I have no idea. It's going to be a tough week for motherfuckers. He's going against one of the highest scorers, and there's no certainty in any position. His highest scorer last week against Packy was his kicker, Gotskowski. He is the New England kicker, and he's going to be on bye week this week, so you don't have your highest scorer this week. Man. Who am I picking? It's the McGriddles. Whatever. That's a no-brainer. All right, I'm going kind of long, so let me speed through some of these. Carcass, team number 14 versus number 10, El Chapo. Okay, so Carcass is 0-3, but they have a lot of potential. Like I said, injuries and suspensions and things of that nature have slowed this team down, but it was a really good team at a 5th pick. Who do we have? Matt Ryan versus Houston. I don't like the fact that Houston has such a good defensive line and that Atlanta's offensive line is shaky, to say the least. Marshawn Lynch, we don't know if he's playing. Detroit isn't as great as it was last year, but they're still a pretty good defense. Lamar Miller against the Jets, playing in London. I don't like Miller this week. Alshon Jeffrey, if he plays against Oakland, he has a chance to be good, but Jimmy Clausen is still his quarterback, so I don't even know what to say there. And Keenan Allen versus Cleveland, that's not a favorable matchup. I'm not really sure if Allen is their number one receiver, but if he is, Cleveland has a pretty good cornerback by the name of Joe Hayden. Don't know if you know him. It's going to be a tough one for Allen. Chapo is going to have Tannehill versus the Jets. I don't like that. He's going to have to throw into coverage from, Revis Island. The Jets defense is pretty good. They showed up the Indianapolis offensive line. I don't think Miami's offensive line is that much better. Adrian Peterson versus Denver. Denver is considered the best defense, but basically they're considered the best fantasy defense because they score a lot of points. But outside of that, they score a lot of points, they win, and they don't allow a lot of points. Can you run on them? Maybe you can, but it is Adrian Peterson, so I'm betting on AP. Mike Evans versus Carolina. Carolina is pretty good at corner. I don't know if Kuechly is playing. I don't think he is. And not that matters much to Evans, but a bit of a toss-up there. Julio Jones. Wait, is it Julio Jones? No, it's James Jones. James Jones playing against San Francisco. I'm not sold on San Francisco's defense, so James Jones, still the number one option for Aaron Rodgers. Play as usual. James Jones should have a great game. Bye weeks. Carcass is not affected by bye weeks, still affected by injuries. Chapo will lose Blunt, who came back and had an awesome week. Could I have repeated it? Maybe, but he's going to be out for week number 4. On the waivers, Carcass picked up Gary Barnage, a tight end, to help alleviate the tight end problems, and picked up a kicker. Note to Victor, buddy, you don't have to use a waiver on a kicker. You use your waiver, it puts you at the bottom of the waiver order. You could have picked up the kicker, right before kickoff. Okay? But, live and learn, make mistakes. That's how you play fantasy. Chapo picked up the second most requested pickup of the week, which was Michael Vick. Michael Vick in Pittsburgh. I don't like it. It's a short week. He came in. He looked awful when he came in for Ben last Sunday. Were there any touchdowns that game? I don't think there were. I think everything was all just field goals and stuff. So I would say maybe if he would have got like a whole week to prepare, but he didn't even get that. He played on Sunday. Now he's going to play again on Thursday. I don't think he'll be great, or maybe he just has some magic and surprises that other team who's not expecting anything. I'm picking El Chapo in this one. I'm not 100% confident. I think that Carcass is better than they're showing so far, but a lot is riding on whether Marshawn Lynch plays and he's good. And yeah, is which Adrian Peterson are we getting this week? Number 13, turned down for what? Also 0-3 versus Deflate This, who's 1-2, and that 1-2 was just barely scraped by. Uh, Players of note on turn down for what? Dante Moncrief playing against Jacksonville. It is Jacksonville, but Moncrief is not a star. J.J. Watt is going against Atlanta. Like I mentioned, their offensive line is skittish. So maybe Watt has a chance to get a lot of defensive plays. Uh, when you mention players of note, Robbie Gould of Chicago against Oakland, with Jimmy Clausen being such a shitty quarterback, maybe Gould gets a whole bunch of field goals, and that'll be all the points, or maybe he'll end up being your leading scorer. Who knows? He might get 30 points just off of kicking. Amir Abdullah, pretty good running back, but he is going to face Seattle, which is not a good matchup. Seattle's pretty good in the offensive line. They have really good safeties and corners, so it's gonna be a tough one for Abdullah. Deflate this. It's gonna start Derek Carr against Chicago. Pretty good matchup since Chicago has no rhyme or reason. DeMarcus Murray, if he plays, is going against Washington. Washington's defense is slightly better than their offense, I think. I don't think they're a threat. Look for Murray to have a big game. Is Foster playing? If he is, he'll be playing against Atlanta. I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't know if Foster's really going to play. If he does play, it'll be his first game back. Atlanta's defense is not great. Maybe he gets a few touchdowns, but not a whole bunch of yards. I heard people were picking up his backup blue. Jeremy Hill against Kansas City. I like Jeremy Hill's talent. He kind of came out of nowhere. I've always been a bigger fan of Giovanni Bernard. What do I think about this one? I'm not really sure. Kansas City is not a terrible defense. Hopefully, Hill gets it together this game. Bye weeks. The only person affected by bye weeks on turn down for what is going to be Green Beckham, who he just picked up on waivers. He also picked up Kenny Britt. Don't know why, but whatevs. Deflate. There is slightly more hope, slightly more upside for Deflate this, so I'm going to pick them to win this game. Number 7, the Naco Pigs, only because of record, versus number 6, I Pity the Fools. They're both 2-1. Both of these teams are enigmatic, for lack of a better word. They have peaks and valleys. They're good on some places, not good in others. If you expect the regular performance from their players, I'm thinking that this is going to be the game of the week for the sole purpose that they might have the closest score, but most of their players are so goddamn boring. Peyton Manning going against Minnesota. Minnesota's looked pretty good this year, their defense in particular. They might actually surprise Denver. They could win the game. What does that mean for Peyton? Who knows? Eddie Lacy versus San Francisco. San Francisco has some decent linebackers. They could keep Lacy in check. Lacy's still getting over an ankle injury. I don't know. Brandon Marshall going to London, playing against Miami. There's another very good cornerback there by the name of Brent Grimes, I believe. If he's matched up with Marshall, it'll be, who knows? I mean, the things that Brandon Marshall has that favor him are the fact that he's enormous and his catching range is ridiculous, but he'll be catching passes from Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he'll be defended by a good cornerback. So, I don't know. Flip a coin there. No waiver pickups for Naco Pigs. He's not affected by the bye week. For Pity the Foles, Stafford against Seattle, throwing in Sherman's direction, throwing at Cam Chancellor, throwing at Earl Thomas. I do not like the matchup, but apparently Foles is going to stick with Stafford because he tried Foles and Foles was shitty too. Le'Veon Bell against Baltimore. I like that one. Put him in there, run all over them. Baltimore's looking like shit. Allen Hurns just picked them up. Going against Indianapolis rather. Don't think Indianapolis defense is anything to write home about. But Allen Hurns and Blake Bortles, what do you expect from them really? Maybe 11, 12 fantasy points, which is not bad, but it's also not great. That's not the thing that's going to give you the edge in this matchup. You have Shane Vereen going against Buffalo at your flex. Shane Vereen has not looked great, has not gotten very many opportunities. The Giants are not doing anything new on offense, despite what they said. They know huddle, but they do the same old shit. They either throw or they run. They run when they're supposed to run. They throw when they're supposed to throw. They never have anyone off guard. I thought the point of no huddle was to surprise people with plays. They're not doing that. Foles has two players from Tennessee who will be out this week, Sankey and Walker. And you picked up rather Allen Hurns on waivers. Hope that works out. I wanted Hurns. I had lost out on that one. So great for you, I guess. The next matchup, team number 9, ranked number 9, Green Eggs and Fuck Sam, decided to dump Sam Bradford. So now it's Fuck Sam moniker. He's a 1-2 versus the number 4, Brown Brady, who's 2-1. AJ Green going against Kansas City. AJ Green is a stud. Who cares who he plays against? He's AJ Green. Megatron versus Seattle, not good. Even though Packy already sat him on the bench and decided to go with Ted Ginn instead. Ted Ginn will be playing against Tampa Bay, so there's a chance that Ted Ginn has a favorable game. Brown Brady. Carlos Williams looked pretty good, and the Giants don't know how to tackle. I know that Brown Brady's owner is going to be conflicted the whole time he plays this game, but Carlos Williams should probably carve it up on the Giants. Antonio Brown is fantastic. He's an excellent football player. Unfortunately, Big Ben is his facilitator. Big Ben will not play this week. Can Michael Vick get him the ball with the accuracy and frequency that Big Ben did? Hopefully. I know that Brown Brady is counting on it. And which Jones is this? Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones against Kansas City. I believe that was a pickup, very good pickup. He was the most desired player, and you got away with it. You picked him up. Good job. The waivers, Green Eggs picked up Thompson, Bortles, and Andrews. More noticeable that he picked up Andrews, even though Andrews is going to be on a bye. So who knows if after the bye he comes back and he's still the guy, or if they go back to Sankey. Otherwise, you kind of wasted a waiver pick, but who cares? It was at the end and nobody claimed him anyway, so do you. Dropped Sam Bradford and picked up Bortles. I'm not sure what the logic is behind there. I guess you have to have a backup quarterback. I would have rather had Bradford as my backup, but, run your own team the way you want to run it. Let's see here. Brown Brady also picked up Fitzpatrick. Likely only because he needed someone to fill in for Brady, who will be out this week due to bye weeks. All right, team number 8 with a 1-2 record, Omega El Forte. Let's hear some more Omega back there. I'm feeling it this week. It's a tough matchup. I'm going up against team number 3, FIBA, the owner of the highest score last week. Can he repeat that? I don't know, but FIBA's currently 2-1. FIBA stands for Fuck You Ben Affleck, as you all know. I got Matt Forte going against Oakland. Matt Forte is the only offense that Chicago currently is in possession of. So hopefully he has a great game against Oakland, who can either let him go crazy or injure him in the first quarter. Joseph Randle, he looked great against the Falcons. Hopefully they go back to him this week, and he'll be playing against New Orleans. Randall Cobb against San Francisco. Like I said, not convinced by San Francisco, so Cobb could get another 2-touchdown game this week with probably 80 yards. Buys. I got Dante Hightower on a buy. Not that it really mattered. He gave me 1 fantasy point last week. Forte picked up Lance Dunbar on waivers, kind of to back up Randall. Maybe when one of my players goes on a bye and I need to rest someone, I can plug in both Randall and uh, and Dunbar and get all of the points that would belong to the Dallas running backs. FIBA has Luck versus Jacksonville. Andrew Luck has been trying to get it together. He hasn't been great. Jacksonville gives any team a chance to get back on track. Julio Jones against Houston. Um, the Houston overall defense is good, but Julio Jones is another beast, much like AJ Green. Julio Jones, you play him no matter what. You don't care what the matchup is. It's not going to matter. Julio Jones is Julio Jones. Currently, there is a spot to be filled because Julius Edelman is going to be out on bye week. So Gary has to decide whether he wants to start Golden Tate or Doug Baldwin. Their teams rather are playing against each other. Tate versus Seattle, Baldwin versus Detroit. They're both supposed to be good defenses. Seattle is more touted. I think whoever you pick there gets you like 5 to 7 fantasy points. So whatever, just pick whoever the hell you want. It won't really matter. Mariota, you picked them up on waivers, still haven't used them, and he is on bye week this week. Shouldn't really matter. Picked up another cornerback, Ronald Darby, whatevs. I cannot continue to be this bad, and I will prove it. I plan to beat FIBA this week. Yes, the obvious choice is, oh my god, he's picking his own team. Duh, but that's the way it's going to go. I got some questions, not necessarily commissioner questions, and I kind of heard some comments. And I'm going to end this little video here, which is 47 minutes long so far, by answering a few questions. I was asked who would I prefer, either Russell Wilson or Matt Ryan. The answer that I gave to that is that for fantasy purposes, I would still take Matt Ryan for the simple fact that he's going to be throwing to Julio Jones, and you can't go wrong there. But Russell Wilson, he scrambles and runs a lot, and those yards, they add up. Remember that 10 rushing yards is one fantasy point versus 25 passing yards to get that one fantasy point. So if anything were to happen to Julio Jones, who is typically in the line of fire, who could get blasted by a safety at any time, then Matt Ryan is going to be fighting an uphill battle, and he really doesn't run. While Russell Wilson, he gets his points despite his receivers. But for the time being, and until something changes, I'm still going with Matt Ryan. I asked one of our players who would they want for a receiver to remain nameless. I'm not going to tell you who this receiver is. You don't need to know my strategy. Fuck you all very much. The answer that I got was a top 10 RB2. Now I said, what the fuck is a top 10 RB2? Like, what are you really trying to tell me? Well, if you analyze it, an RB2 is a running back who is not good enough to be your number one running back on your team. And considering that we have 14 teams and everyone has an RB1 or a go-to running back, then just about everyone from 15 to 24 is going to be a top 10 RB2. So top 10 RB2, I have a bunch of. Top 10 RB2s are pretty much anyone who's in a timeshare right now or running back by committee. What's a top 10 RB2? Giovanni Bernard, Rashad Jennings. Man, I mean, there's only like 5 or 6 running backs that are like seriously the guy. Okay, so that for that part. And stacking. I mentioned stacking, and someone asked me about stacking, so let's address it here. Stacking is when you pick a lot of players from the same team, particularly when you pick a quarterback and receiver combo. So basically, you're getting the points. You're stacking them up against themselves. So you get like the passing yards, and then you get the receiving yards. If you get a touchdown, you'll get that receiving touchdown, and you get the passing touchdown. So that's stacking. That strategy worked for Packy this week when he got 69 points from AJ Green and Andy Dalton. Does it work all the time? Not always, but it has his upside, it has his downside. Upside is, if it works, it's fantastic. You got a lot of production from two players that did great. But then, you have to face the fact that you're going to run into a bye week eventually, and you're pretty much going to just give up that week unless you have very good backups. Because typically, when you stack, you take the best players from those teams. All right, so throughout the weeks, I'll be back doing these 2 weeks from now for week 6, and I had two themes this week. It was about excess, and last week, I mean, people just outdid themselves. Crazy scores. Bunch of people scored over 30 points. There was one amazing blowout that was by over 100 points, but we also had a 70-point blowout, a 60-point, 50, 40, 30s. There were a lot of blowouts this week, a lot of boring matchups that basically ended by 4 o'clock on Saturday. So throughout the weeks, I'll be paying attention to some trends. If you want me to address anything, let me know. I'll investigate it. I didn't mention any names. I can keep it anonymous. If you fear for being stupid, I won't say your name. Um, and you're not gonna learn otherwise if you don't ask questions. So, Packy likes to make fun of Ivan for asking him shit. Ivan, I fucking hate you on a fantasy level, but if you want me to investigate something for you, I will, and I'll put it out here, and I won't say that it was you that asked me. All right, so with that, I will end this. I am going to eat my blue donut. It is currently 2:15 in the morning, and I just recorded a 51-minute podcast. Good Lord. This is going to take 16 days to post. All right, guys. So listen to some Omega and watch me eat my donut. Pretty good donut.